Alright, Honors Algebra 2, welcome back. This lesson is basically review. We're factoring any type of polynomial, not just quadratics, although we'll go through some of the quadratic ones again. And then there's a couple more at the end that are new and that are very important for going forward, how to factor the difference or sum of two cubes. So we'll get to that in a second. But first, GCF. Again, if you have any type of polynomial, you first look to take out a GCF. And if I look at all the pieces in number 1, I can take out a 3 out of all those numbers. I can take out an x. So I can take a 3 and an x out, and what I'm left with is this becomes x to the 4th. 12 divided by 3 is 4. X squared plus 6 divided by 3 is 2x. And then do not forget this piece here. I took a 3x out of a 3x. It's not 0, it's 1. You need that thing there. And then a quick double check again. If you multiply this back into everything, you should get the answer that you started with. Okay, so that would be factoring GCF. Alright, if you just have an x squared plus bx plus c, where a is 1, this is the reverse FOIL. So this is just where you have to come up with two numbers that multiply to negative 15 that add to negative 2. Hopefully you guys realize that your numbers are 5 and 3, where the negative has to be the 5 and the positive has to be the 3. And again, you can multiply that out to double check. This one we use Batman for, because it has now a number in front of the x squared. You can use Batman for this one too if you want, or splitting the middle term if you want to call it that. But you don't have to do that for reverse FOIL. So we have negative 18x here. We need to split that into two numbers that multiply to negative 18 but add to 7, and that would be plus 9x and minus 2x. Bring down that, bring down that. And then remember, we factor by grouping now. So we take out what we can here. We could take a 3 and an x out. So 3x times x plus 3. I'm going to take a minus 2 out, and I'm left with x plus 3. So your final answer should be 3x minus 2 and x plus 3. And again, you could also factor this by guessing and checking if you wanted to. Alright, so that is the answer to number 3. Next we have our favorite. Everyone should recognize this. This is the difference of two squares. Since you could take the square root of both things and there's a subtraction sign, we can write this as a conjugate pair if you want to think of it like that. Because when you have a conjugate pair, the middle term goes away. This is a perfect square trinomial, because what times what is 16 that add to 8? It would be x plus 4 and x plus 4, which we would then say it's x plus 4 quantity squared. So we get it into a square of a binomial. Alright, so those are those. You should know how to do those. Grouping, again, you take out, you look at this piece, you look at this piece independently. You can take out an x squared here on the red one. So x squared, and we're left with x minus 2. And then we can take out a minus 9 here. And then you're left with x minus 2, because when you take a minus 9 out, it changes the sign in there. And sure enough, you can do grouping because these match. If they didn't match, you couldn't do grouping. So you get x squared minus 9, and you get x minus 2. Okay. And then we can factor this a little bit more because we have a difference of two squares. So the final answer for this is x plus 3, x minus 3, and x minus 2. Alright, number 7, we just have to kind of look at it and see where we can go with it. First thing you should always do is try to take out a GCF, because again, that is the first step on anything. I can take a 4 out of all those, and I can take an x squared out of all those. So I have a 4x squared on the outside. I have x to the 4th minus 5x squared plus 6. Now, remember, factoring this is kind of like factoring an x squared and x in a number term, except for we have x to the 4th and x squared now. So we can just say it's 4x squared times, I know I'm going to have an x squared term and an x squared term. I have to come up with two numbers that multiply to 6 that add to negative 5. How about negative 3 and negative 2? And then look at your new pieces, your new binomials, can we do difference of two squares with those? No, we cannot. We are done with this. Okay. Now, this is the new one. It follows a pattern pretty much, okay? When you have sum or difference of two cubes, you have something cubed plus something else cubed. So what you get is those things added together. For sum, the plus is in the front part, and then the minus is the first part of the second term. So, whereas if you have the difference of two cubes, the minus sign is in the front part. So let's do a couple of these. If I'm looking at number 8, my a value would be x, and this is 2 cubed, so my b value is 2. So a is x, b is 2. So if I write this out with the pattern, I have x plus 2. A squared would be x squared minus a times b, which is 2 times x. So 2x plus b is 2, so we have 2 squared, which is 4. Now, when you do the difference and sum of two cubes, usually this cannot be factored. That can't be factored. So you're done from there. Alright, let's try this one now. What's being cubed here? I'm going to just write it out. My a value is equal to 2x, because that would be cubed, would give you 8x cubed. My b value is 1. Okay? And it's a minus, which means that, now, don't put the minus with the 1. We're just dealing with the numbers. Now, with minus, we're going to just use the pattern. It's just flipped of this one. The minus and the plus sign flipped for a minus one. So this would become 2x minus 1. If I square 2x, you get 4x squared plus 2x times 1 is 2x plus 1 squared is 1. And that's the final answer. You're done. Again, I'm just using the pattern I give you up there. Now, make sure you can factor all the way before you do any of these. So, if we look at number 10, first thing you can do is take out a GCF. What can I take out? I could take a 2 out and a u squared. So I take a 2 and a u squared out, and I'm left with 8u cubed minus 125. Well, this is now a difference of two cubes. The thing being cubed here is 2u, and the thing being cubed for this one is 5. You should be familiar with 5 cubed, 2 cubed, those numbers, so you could recognize that. So now I can write this as with the pattern. So I have 2u squared is still outside. I have the difference of 2 cubes. So it's a 2u minus 5 is the first part, because a minus b, and a is 2u, and b is 5. And then because it's a minus, the minus goes here, the plus, these will be pluses in here. 2u squared is 4u squared, plus 2u times 5 is 10u, plus 5 squared is 25. And this is the complete factored form of this original polynomial. Okay, so again, very important to practice the difference and sum of cubes and get that pattern down. You have to memorize that. Okay, everything else should have kind of been review. Hopefully that you guys remembered most of that stuff, except for 8, 9, and 10 should be new. All right.